Rewind-A-Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from John and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
And a big hello to all of our free feed listeners on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on whatever platform you may be listening to this. I am Wai Ting, filling in for John Pollock in this chair, but that means I get to be joined by Collision Course's Kate from Montreal.
Hey.
And of course, Kate, incredibly busy this week. She'll be joining us on Collision Course tomorrow for a special Thursday edition. But you also had a chance to take in AEW Redemption live in your hometown of Montreal. Not only watching the show live, but also doing a great job of representing us at the press conference by answering some very strong questions to both Willow and also Tony Khan. Care to maybe discuss a little bit about both the live perspective of the show and also your experience like doing one of these press conferences for the first time?
It's interesting because while I was watching the show, I wasn't really sort of looking much online or anything, but I would say that the reaction that I saw to the show more or less lined up with the feeling that I was getting in the at the Bell Center. It was I was going to say an up and down show, more like an up and down and up show. Like I think that with the run of shows, with run of pay-per-views that AEW has had, I think their expectations get very, very high. This was not on the level of the last few. And in particular, it had a sort of like soft middle, I guess. But the overall, I think what occurred to me watching it is this would have been an absolutely phenomenal week of television. I do not know that it needed to be a pay-per-view. I don't know that this felt like much more than kind of a diversion. It's sort of like, between Double or Nothing or the road to All In is kind of set, like from Forbidden Door to All In, like your big matches set, everyone's looking in that direction. So this sort of seemed like very much, oh, look over here, there's something else going on. And yeah, you need to find things to do in between these two sort of milestone pay-per-views. But I don't know if this was it. Like, I don't, and I think
would you have felt that way if you had MJF versus Kenny headlining with the title switch occurring on the show?
$1 million question. I think that was the match that would have felt really worthy of a pay-per-view. So, and I guess that sort of drives this home, which is that, like, if that was something that you could do on free television, then none of the rest of this feels as important. And it's funny because, of course, you had a lot of title changes comparatively. Like, it's the far more than you would normally get on a pay-per-view. And yet I don't know that what happened felt consequential enough to justify the extra show. This has happened with them before when you're talking about adding new pay-per-views, the sort of B pay-per-views that have gotten slotted in. The first iteration of them almost always does feel a little bit like unsure. Mm-hmm. In this case in particular, because everything is so lined up for All In. That said, there were some great matches. The ladder match was excellent. The Bucks Ospreay match, and the final two matches of the night were great. But
I'm sad we're not going to. First time I'm hearing Ospreay, and I'm almost sad we're not going to be able to hear that anymore. Wow.
Yes, this is what I do. I come up with irritating names for tag teams.
Tell me about the media scrum experience and the whole process of doing that for the first time.
It was, I obviously thank you very much for getting me in there. It was nice being able to, to put some questions to people. It was funny because I I felt bad because like I still had sort of more in particular that I wanted to ask Tony Khan, but it's like, okay, I'm like like clearly they have to get to everyone, and I can't just completely like insert myself whenever
You
I
got a
want
good
to.
you got a
But
good one in
it
there
was,
about the visa issues. You know that sort of confirmed, some of
yeah,
those.
if
Yeah.
only I'd gotten an answer.
Oh,
And look, it does. It seems like, yes, clearly they had a bunch of those resolved. See, if I were him, that'd be something like I'd be happy. Like, yes, we're working through. And he did say like, oh well, we've got a whole bunch of people back. It's like, yeah, it's not like, the question is who are you still struggling with, because I think this is kind of a weird issue right now for AEW. Like, certainly it affects them more than anyone else. But yeah, it was it was when they said that they were starting the show an hour earlier. I think most of us were under the impression that meant that it would end an hour earlier. So when it still ended at almost midnight, and like was getting, you're
yeah.
getting it at like going on 1:32 in the
Well,
morning.
maybe it would have ended at 1 a.m. Okay, had they not started an hour earlier. So
Yeah, yeah, I
there's
think
that.
that's it. Like clearly,
The topic of like the length of these shows continues to be like a talking point every single one of these, and I just don't see it changing at this point. Certainly not for the next show.
no,
Yeah.
I was surprised that they just decided to start it an hour earlier, because I thought that, like, I think most people thought that this was an acknowledgement. Okay, they want to finish it up earlier,
Yeah.
at least partly because the metro system in Montreal closes earlier on Sunday, so it was like to allow everyone to get out in time. Now it's still closed in time for people to make the metro, but it
His
like
goal was midnight, to end,
yeah.
which they happen to hit, right? So, all right. So, maybe at that point, let's wrap up our AEW Redemption discussion. I feel like we've across these shows talked about almost all the talking points, but of course, more to come about AEW Redemption on tonight's review of Dynamite. But before that, I do want to direct everybody's attention to the fact that we have a few shows out there in the Post Wrestling Cafe, and if you're missing John Pollock on these podcasts, well, don't worry, because there's plenty of him in our WWE Unreal Season 3 1 and 2 discussion, where on this week's Double Shot, in lieu of talking about the Dark Side of the Ring, we talked about WWE Unreal's Season 3 debut. The 2 episodes covering John Cena's babyface turn from SummerSlam all the way to his retirement match with Gunther. So, those of you who are fans, I don't know how much John actually like enjoys watching Unreal, but I certainly like enjoy talking about it with him, and I hope he does as well, because he has a lot of fun, as always, with the people and the personalities on this particular podcast. So that is available right now in the Double Shot in the Post Wrestling Cafe. On to tonight's edition of AEW Dynamite. This one comes to us from Detroit, Michigan, at the Masonic Temple Theater, where, according to WrestleTix, 3,448 tickets were distributed, and that is up from May of last year, which was about 3,000. So, not only did they sound like an incredibly great crowd, I mean, this venue just
This
looks
venue.
tremendous, doesn't it?
It's the first thing in my notes. Like, it's beautiful, and I am on record repeatedly saying I think that they have benefited a lot from going to these like smaller venues that are often a lot more distinctive looking. And this is certainly one, like, this one was a great example of why I like seeing them do shows at these kind of places.
Yeah, and when you're talking about like, they pretty much packed this entire building of like some of the most rabid fans you'll get. Every segment on this show sounded
Yeah.
really, really strong, and there were some great segments attached to it as well. Maybe we'll just kind of get this out of the way at the beginning, but for me, a lot of expectations for the Motor City Machine Guns on this show. That did not occur. Now, that is not to say it won't occur the next night, but were you surprised they didn't have it on Dynamite itself?
Somewhat, until I realize the show tomorrow is live, because I get confused sometimes about whether or not they're recording 2 shows at once. They did repeatedly say live tomorrow, so I think it is like back-to-back recording. So yeah, that then tends to make me think that they'll show up tomorrow. Like, I'd be surprised if they didn't. Was kind of expecting it, but as soon as they did the the tag team championship discussion backstage. I'm like, okay, it's not happening, because that was the moment. Like, if that had been in the ring, I would have expected them to come out. Because it was backstage, then yes.
It's an interesting question of like where they may fit in. I mean, there are a lot of tag teams right now that are out of the title picture that I think, could use a spot. What are you thinking for them at All In, if at all?
I think it's hard to say, because I don't know if they're going to be affiliated with another group. I don't know if, like, when you don't know what feuds they're going to have, it's just like it could be anything. AEW has used Collision to build up tag programs more often than not, so it wouldn't entirely. That's why it wouldn't entirely surprise me if they show up tomorrow rather than tonight. Watch them not show up at all, and I'm completely wrong, but.
Well, we shall find out tomorrow on Collision Course, won't we? So we start things off with a video recap of Redemption and the big closing angle involving Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. And we actually see like backstage footage of the Death Riders led by John Moxley, who were just, essentially like attacked by Will Ospreay, going to the back and watching the scene between Ospreay and Omega unfold in front of them. So you have Mox essentially kind of like doing commentary and saying, why, like, Ospreay, attack him first, attack him before he attacks you. And of course, Kenny Omega attacks Will Ospreay, and Mox gives this big "I told you so" in a promo that was just awesome. He says, though, that Ospreay may now truly be the best wrestler in the world now that he has nothing left to lose. Or did he say that about Kenny? And was I wrong?
I wasn't entirely sure, because it's he mumbles a bit, but I mean, you could make the argument for either of them, but except that Kenny very much does have something to lose because he has the title.
Well, true of both of them, at least in this instance. So, present day, we see Ospreay running into the Death Riders outside the arena. As Daniel Garcia goes for a hug, Ospreay just decks him with a hidden blade from a very close distance. Ospreay tells Mox that you don't get to pull the trigger for me, and he throws his Death Riders patch back at him.
Pulling triggers, yes.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. So he gives Mox his Death Riders patch back and says he's out. So this seems to officially confirm his exit from the Death Riders. Mox then tells the Death Riders to retreat. And this leads us to Hangman Page, who shows up to confront to confront Ospreay. He tells Ospreay that he knows how he feels with the pressure of the world on his shoulders heading into the biggest show of the year. And he tells Ospreay that if he needs anything, he's there. Ospreay, at this point, still very tense from the Death Riders interaction, says that everybody hates him right now. The Death Riders, he doesn't trust Kenny. He even mentions the United Empire. And he says that he can't trust Page either. Page just straight up tells him he's going to walk into Wembley and he's going to be the best he's ever been, and tells him he's got this. So we see Page returning now. Now that he's no longer going for a championship, he's kind of playing an older brother role. You know, your brother who's kind of graduated high school, who's coming back to like maybe give you advice on like how to ask somebody out for a prom date or something. What do you think of Page's role in all of this, and what do you think about the segment overall?
First of all, I absolutely loved the video cut up of like showing the Death Riders sort of doing play-by-play, as it were, of the end sequence of Redemption. Might actually have been more effective than seeing it in person, where I thought it dragged a little. But so I love that. I think that the interaction between Moxley and Ospreay continues to be really compelling. I like the sort of shift in Page, where it's almost like sort of he's a character who's generally very sort of like sincere and serious, and this he almost seemed a bit lighter, like kind of, as you said, like the big brother, but it's not his fight. Really, it's just sort of, he has a bit of critical emotional distance. Now, who knows how long that lasts, but I thought it was an interesting way to reintroduce him, and then sort of puts him in this mix with this already sort of intriguing relationship. I think, it's adding another kind of nuanced character to the mix here. And it's hard to tell like what his direction is in terms of like what belts he's going to go after, or if he's good, like what story he's going to be involved with. So I liked this role for him. I still don't know. Like, I'm glad that he's back. I guess we got to, spoiler alert for later on in the show, we do get to see him hit a couple of moves, but I don't know if that means he's back sort of able to wrestle, or if they're just sort of gradually working him back into the the mix.
I continue to be really intrigued by this Ospreay, Moxley, Omega storytelling. All of these segments have really kind of like been the best on these shows in quite some time. And tonight, certainly was that. And the addition of Paige into this entire storyline, I think only makes it more compelling. So now that Ospreay continues to like lose friends, he's really not great at making friends, is he? Like, Swerve is gone. Death Riders are gone. United Empire's gone. Kenny was his friend. That's gone now. So Paige, look out. I mean, I'm not expecting great things about this relationship in about 4 months, but I'm intrigued by all of it. Give me all of these matches. They all look great.
Well, and certainly like AEW has made a stock and trade with characters who are more complicated, like not as straightforward as sort of old-fashioned wrestling. And so if you're talking about with Kenny and Ospreay and Moxley, Hangman fits right into that. Like, he's another piece of that puzzle. If they find a way to work Swerve into this as well, all the better. Like,
So up next, first of all, they announced in the middle of the next match that we are going to get a men's casino gauntlet match for a guaranteed world title shot at All in Wembley. So this is your chance to cram as many people into the show as you can, maybe make room for some surprise entrances. And that leads us to our first match of the evening. It is a national title match where new champion Andrade is defending against Jack Perry and Nick Wayne. So to start things off here, we've got sorry.
Just before you get started, can you explain something to me? You are wiser than I am. Okay. So they had this 6-way ladder match to determine the number one contender for the international title, which Mike Bailey won. Yay! Why then on this show are 3 of the people who didn't win that match getting title shots? Is that not odd?
They came really close though, Kate. Okay, and they almost touched the title, and that is enough to qualify somebody. The short answer is there is no longer a rating system, and therefore they don't really need any sort of justification. The only justification being, does Tony Khan think it's a cool match? And that's
I want a justification. Okay, yeah. I'm not gonna complain. It just struck me as so weird that, like, right on the heels of redemption, like, at least if there was a bit of a break, it was just seeing 3 of the guys from that ladder match get title shots on the first show after redemption.
I guess the problem is, if you needed to justify everybody, like, for their title shots, you would have no title matches on this particular show, right? Because everything's sort of like a bit of a fresh slate, isn't it? And ultimately, I think people just want a cool match with something at stake.
I'm good with that. That's fine.
Okay. So it's Andrade, Jack Perry, Andrade, and Nick Wayne. And off the top, Wayne catches Andrade, somewhat into the match. Andrade does a selfie spot, and Wayne catches him, slice bread off the barricade, but the landing is able to hurt Wayne's knee. Wayne's neck is also all taped up following that ladder match, and after a commercial break, the crowd is chanting for Andrade to take his pants off. He does not. He saves that for the pay-per-views. Perry delivers this crazy diving Rana to Andrade from the apron, and Wayne immediately follows up with a tope into a Canadian destroyer on the floor. Wayne's prodigy plex to Andrade gets a 2 count before Perry makes the save. Perry and Wayne engage in this sort of a yay boo before they super kick Andrade together, but Andrade lays them both out with a double clothesline on the rebound. Wayne is lifted into Perry on the corner with the Rana as Perry catches Andrade with a tornado DDT upon landing. The poison Rana is delivered to Wayne, then Perry delivers multiple topes to the man on the floor, ending with a moonsault plancha and then the Liger Bomb in the ring for a 2 count for a crazy run. Wayne then delivers a great looking Phoenix Splash, getting a 2 count. Andrade hits a spinning back elbow to Wayne and then eventually follows up with a DM, getting the victory in what I thought was a very hot opener, Kate.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and you had sort of the good kind of like spoken intro, if you will, like all of the sort of the recap and the promo, and then straight into just a very hot, entertaining match. This crowd was wild all night, and so I think that this helped. Like, they were very responsive to this kind of thing, and Three guys. I'm interested to see. Like, they do seem to be pairing Perry and Nick Wayne up. Like they had a promo together sort of the just before the ladder match. They sort of paired them off a few times during the ladder match. Like it almost seems to be suggesting that they're carrying on with something there. Well, we'll see.
And yeah, I thought just a perfect opener here, and I thought a great return to Dynamite for Nick Wayne, who I think, like, along with Perry, certainly are able to show how special they both are as young talents in the ring. And
Yeah.
Andrade, you can definitely say the most over guy, in this particular match, and it ended up feeling like a really strong, like, hard fought victory for him because the other two look so good. So perfect opener here in front of this crowd. Shivani is with Andrade after the match, and well, of course, Andrade says he feels tranquilo because he has now screwed MJF by taking his diamond ring. He has screwed Don Callis by taking the national championship. Shivani then says next week in Mexico, there's going to be a qualifying match for that #1 position in the Casino Gauntlet at Wembley. And Shivani asks, is that something you would like? Which, because this was the setup for how it didn't exactly make like the most sense. He kind of should have led with like,
Neither does Andrade not defending his own belt at All In.
That's true, because you're right, because he won't be defending at All In. He's also not going to be defending at Mexico because he's going to be involved in this #1 contenders match instead.
Yeah, like I was very puzzled at this. Like, you literally just put this belt on him. Maybe try to make okay, and you had him do a great, like, a hot defense right off the top. Why then are we pretending that he's not a champion? And it's like, oh, but don't you want to go for a real championship? That is exactly how this came off.
Yeah, truly. I don't disagree. And I think it's, to me, another sign that, like, this is the title that does not need to exist in this company. So anyway, he says, how the crowd chants along. They certainly love it. And it's at this point where I'm like, staring into the background here, and I'm noticing two juggalos. Not just any two juggalos, but this is Shaggy, Two Dope, and Violent J. Of course, they being in Detroit. They were welcome guests, special guests here for this edition of Dynamite. And in fact, Tony, you could see on my AEW actually welcomed them and introduced them on stage before the show. So there you go.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that these guys show up on an ROH taping, like, just as an appearance. Yeah. I like just to do a run in or something. Yeah.
How old are they right now?
Well, they're
He's 50. Violent J is 54. Okay. And Shaggy Two Dope is 51. Ancient. So I guess still old enough to, be pulling out Canadian destroyers or whatever they want, taking bumps, I'm sure. But okay, interesting. So that is that. Maybe they'll join the Don Callis family up next. So the Brawling Birds are seen with Renee for backstage for an interview, and they tell us that Divine Dominion have been avoiding them for too long, and they want their championships. Hater starts talking about the MIT's challenge and tells them to pick 2 out of their 3, and they will beat them on Collision. Where was this challenge made? Was I missing something? Was it Collision?
On Collision, yes.
I see. Okay. So Windsor tells Dominion that whenever they see them to ball up their knuckles because they're going to beat them up Brawling Birds style. How have you felt about the build-up of the Brawling Birds heading to this title match at Wembley?
Well, they just kind of reappeared after being absent for quite a while. It suffers a bit from predictability, and it's not a bad thing, but it was sort of clear, I think, from the point at which Divine Dominion won the titles, like, okay, so they're gonna hold on to them until All In, where they'll drop them to Alex and Jamie. So they haven't really done anything to move beyond that. So this is just kind of solidifying what we all knew was going to happen. That said, very much looking forward to the match, but we'll see how it goes from here.
Yeah, that like partial layoff in between, I suppose was like, what, like for the Owen and maybe like various maybe singles programs, but it's
Mm.
one where like I really thought that they would be a lot more developed, meaning like maybe as
Yeah.
more of a tag team with like an actual story by this point, heading into the biggest show of the year.
Well,
And
then at
I
least let them have a few sort of series like this is something where they really could have done with having a story outside a title. Like let them feud with another pair. Like they could have done this MIT thing earlier. They could have feuded with I, I guess like well, Tekla and Triangle Menace are were sort of wrapped up with other things. But there are other stories you could have built for them.
well, I'll
And
tell you
so
what
it
the
was just like
story
they disappeared and now they're back and
I'll tell
immediately
you
going into.
I'll tell you what I
Go
think the
ahead.
story like I thought was going to be was that they really want to win a championship at Wembley.
Hmm.
I mean, yes, it's similar to Osprey, but it should be similar to Osprey, like or
Yeah.
any Englishman, performing at this show. This is their chance to get like their
Hmm.
version of that, and that was Windsor's story heading into the Owen. And when
Hmm.
she failed to advance in the
Yeah.
Owen, she had that great scene
Yeah.
with Will Ospreay crying in his arms
Yes.
because
Yep.
she failed. But now she has a second chance to get that goal. And there's been no mention of that. Instead, we're getting these
Yeah.
sort of like very one note promos about like, I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to beat you up. But like,
Well,
where's the
and
why?
it's as if like she hasn't like it's as if like she just sort of shook that loss off and as you said that was a really good moment with her coming in and like breaking down and crying in his arms and it's like they then sort of turned it's like oh yeah that was no big deal we're still gonna get something it's like I would like to have had something to get me from A to B here. Like to get from that very emotional moment to her feeling like all pumped about herself again. Like it and I get it. Like yeah, sure, you want the big moment at Wembley. Why would you not? But then I feel like they could have just been building them up, like letting them get like become the very clear next challengers for those belts. And instead it's like, well, I guess oh, we should come back. This show is coming up. Like,
I
I don't know.
haven't felt the chase. I haven't felt the struggle of
No.
the chase from them,
Yeah.
quite yet. So that's that. We go to the back with the Callis family with Renee, and Renee asks them about their losses at Redemption. Kyle is sure to mention that he didn't lose, even though looking at Kevin Knight, kind of he did.
Mm.
Callis says Davis is angry. He can't wait to see what happens, but he also hopes Knight learned a lesson about not needing the Callis family in his matches. Knight said, he lost, but it felt great to go toe to toe with one of the best ever, and he's happy he's still champion, and he kind of hopes and prods at Kyle, saying that he hopes Kyle will still be champion after he faces Speedball next week in Mexico. Kyle says the title will stay in the family, and that's when Okada kind of like emerges from like the back room. I don't know what room this was, but like he was hiding in there, their locker room, I guess, and says,
Mm.
Kyle's right. It will stay in the family. So lots of friction between these alpha males in the Don Callis family, as usual.
I kind of like the idea of just like the entire family just sort of imploding and Callus like rebuilding, like just sort of reforming another group at some point. Because yeah, like that's the problem. He's got all of these alphas, and they can't get along. Like they cannot work together. They can't play nice together over the long term.
That takes us to our next match, which is the Don Callis families, Kyle Fletcher, Jake Doyle, and Brian Cage taking on Brodito and Speedball. And of course, there are Fuck Don Callis, Fuck Ice 2 chants. Bandito impresses with this like big deadlift suplex on Fletcher early on. Cage catches him off the apron and then power bombs him into the steel post, taking us to the commercial break. Bandito then tags King in, and he's in there with Cage and Doyle by himself, so the fans are chanting meat. Speedball comes in, but he's quickly stopped by Cage with the power bomb in the corner. The heels triple team him with a combo of moves before Bandito make the save. Everybody is in there now, and Fletcher and Speedball go at it, giving us like a really strong teaser for next week, I felt. Bandito military presses Doyle for that big strength spot, and then you get a big succession of big moves from everybody, leading us to Speedball with a great springboard moonsault to the floor. Speedball then tags himself in and delivers the Ultima weapon to Doyle as Doyle is trying to powerbomb Bandito. Follows this up with this cross-arm sunset flip to get the victory in what I thought was another excellent match.
Yeah. I feel like with this group of people, you really like you were unlikely to have a weak match unless something went terribly wrong. Nothing at all went wrong. And it did make me feel like that much more excited. I want to see the third iteration of Fletcher versus Speedball. The first two were great, and they have a decent story going into it. Like it wasn't just that he was the hometown guy winning in Montreal. Speedball had the best the best story arc to go up against Fletcher again. I thought that, but everyone here was really good. I'm kind of amazed looking at several of the matches tonight. Like, wow, how, like, I don't understand how these guys weren't messed up by their matches on Sunday. Certainly, like, but like Fletcher and Speedball and Bandito were like, if they had not appeared on this show, I would not have been at all surprised, just because
this match
had a rough night.
Was announced pretty late, into the day. And maybe there were some of those medical clearances that Tony was
making sure everything is still connected.
But
everyone looked just fine. I thought that they looked great here. It was like high energy match, and once again, crowd ate it up, and that always helps.
Strong booking of Speedball here. Of course, heading into the title match. Likely not winning the championship next week in Mexico, but I hope he certainly leaves with, some form of a program for All In. Otherwise, maybe he might be a Casino Gauntlet guy, perhaps. I also sense like Doyle and Cage kind of being like, almost their own tag team at this point, sort of like the new Doyle and Davis.
Yeah, like I feel since Mark Davis went on his own solo trajectory, he's kind of been removed from being part of like the standard tag team. So Doyle and Cage do feel like that's what they're going to become.
Yeah, we got another big guy, in like black trunks that we can fit in there, and I thought they were a lot of fun in this match.
Yeah.
Cage and Cope with the Bucks. We get a little sit-down interview with Renee in the back, and the Bucks talk about how they never thought this match would happen. They say Wembley is really big for them, so big that their wives and kids are also going to be coming. They say that Cage and Cope are tag team revolutionaries, and they kind of feel the same about themselves, which Cope actually agrees with. Christian, though, says that they're here to prove that they're not just the best of their generation, but the Bucks generation as well. He then, of course, says, "It's good to know your wives are coming." Matt says these guys are on their second careers and they have their legacies, but the Bucks are still working on theirs. And he lets us know that them winning the titles for the fourth time will make them the most decorated tag team in AEW history. So that kind of is where the level of the program is at right now. It kind of starts off from, a base of mutual respect, with the exception of Christian, of course. But slowly they are heating things up a little bit here in this segment. What do you think about here?
This was very much like sort of basic, like let's get things started. This, as you said, it was sort of entry level. I thought Christian's reactions were the best thing going here. Even like when he was not talking, just him watching the three be sort of not obsequious necessarily, but just very, very polite and cautious. And you just see him like not having this in the back of his mind, but he did keep it in check, other than the comment about bringing their wives. No comment about the father. Papa Buck, who has played a role in past Young Bucks programs, not yet introduced. He lives, so I guess maybe he's of less of interest to Christian, but I think this is one of these this is one of these matches where I'm sure they'll find a way to spice it up a bit, but it is very much about like, hey, we can actually do this match. Can you believe it?
Maya World versus Persephone is our next match. Another first defense for a new champion here in Maya World. And, the crowd seems into my world early on. They're chanting for her, and I thought she looked pretty good early on. And this is when Persephone takes control. Persephone gave us some good heel charisma throughout the commercial break here. World delivers a series of running cover attempts to break Persephone's momentum. Delivers a shining wizard for a 2 count. We get a big tope from Persephone on the floor, leading to Maya following up with the tornado DDT on the outside. Maya then delivers a double jump moonsault from the second rope, but in comes Hikaru Shida, throwing a kendo stick into the ring to break the count. Persephone is about to use the kendo stick with the ref turned around, but Statlander comes in to stop her, leading to Maya World following up with the bridging fall away slam for the victory.
This felt like more a setup for Stat versus Persephone in Mexico. Like I fully expect that's
Right.
something we're going to get announced, at least, like if not for Persephone style, at least in some iteration. Like it could be style, like it could be Statlander and Maya World versus Persephone and Hikaru Shida, but I think that like some iteration of this will be happening next week. I did like hearing the crowd get behind Maya. I felt I understand where people were were not expecting her to win, and I guess the reaction is sort of mixed. But my God, I feel sorry for both her and Sheeta in the moment on Sunday,
Because
because
the
I
the
don't
crowd was so quiet for the match.
quiet way they were gone.
Oh,
Like there was
okay, yeah.
it was the rapture in the Bell Center. Like and look, I'm not, I didn't expect to be taken up, but I was a little surprised at like a good, in a crowd of 7,000 people, that all of a sudden like 2,000 of them went missing immediately. Like that, the crowd was, yeah, at least 1/3, maybe more, gone for that match immediately as soon as they came out. So I liked seeing a more intense reaction to the match here, just because the crowd stuck around. They were engaged. She was over, and I thought, yeah, I saw a solid match from both of them.
I would imagine, like maybe some of the people felt bad that they were leaving as well. But just as a reminder, this was what, like hour 4, or something like a 3 hour 3.5 into the whole thing. And these shows do not leave you any sort of break to go to the bathroom, to do, really take any sort of breather. Unfortunately, like this was the match that felt perhaps expendable when you consider like the lack of build this match received on that pay-per-view. So that really is unfortunate. I hope it doesn't necessarily mean like, the crowd is not into my world. I think they can be, but to me the big question about her is still not necessarily in ring. I think she's looking like pretty comfortable in there. I think she will thrive in the spotlight with this title, but promo and personality, I think, that's something she will have to accelerate at a much higher pace now that she is, under this sort of pressure. So,
Yeah.
Mark Davis is in the back, and Mark Davis cuts a promo. He's pissed off, of course, about losing the national championship, and he wants to do something about it. So he challenges Will Ospreay, who he says he is 1-1 with this year. But he also says Ospreay's win over him came only because of the Death Riders' interference. So he says Ospreay has no more cool kids to sit with at lunch. So he challenges Will Ospreay to a match where he says the Don Callis family will not be either. So that match is coming up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big one.
That's looking forward to that one. I'm curious to see what they do with Mark Davis now, because I think he has had such a hot run in the last couple of months that, yeah, it made sense to take the title off him, put it on Andrade, although that really only makes sense if you're going to have Andrade treating it like it's important, but I already talked about that. I hope that they have some kind of plan for him. Like I hope that there's an idea for what they want to do next, because he richly deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we'll see like how many matches are going to be on All In, whether or not he finds his way onto one, because I could also see him being a gauntlet guy. So we'll see. The Willow celebration is up next, and outside of the main event segment, I mean, I certainly felt like this was like one of the big highlights of the entire show. There's
Yeah.
lots of confetti. Crowd is chanting, "You deserve it," and they tell us she is the first AEW Women's Triple Crown winner, and at this reaction from this crowd, Willow looked legitimately emotional. You know, she's kind of
Yeah.
like, you could hear her welling up and having to hold back the tears. At one point, she mentions the makeup team put a lot of work into this, so don't make me cry. It's
Mhm.
incredibly endearing, and she says all of this is surreal and talks about her doubters. She said people would look at a girl that looks like her and never thinks that she could be champion, but apparently nobody else in the audience thought that way because they seem to be very happy about her being champion. She, over the past year, has won the tag titles. She beat Monet for the TBS title. And then she got hurt and she was taken to a dark place. But she credits good old mom Jill for digging her out, and this crowd starts chanting, "Mom." She says her mom
Mhm.
calls her her warrior princess and told her that she had two options: stay down or fight. And this crowd even starts chanting warrior princess.
Mhm.
So Willow says she fought and got into the gauntlet, then fought a dangerous, toxic champion. She then looks at the camera and says, if life has been kicking you around, don't give up and keep fighting and keep pushing through because sometimes the comeback is better than the dream. Your thoughts on the Willow portion of the segment, first of all?
Just solid gold. And clearly, there were a lot of signs in the audience for Willow. People were looking forward to seeing her. She got a very hot reaction on Sunday. And this was like, she is one of these people who could just come out and effortlessly win people over because she is that likable. And this is, it seems like such a simple thing for, but it really works for her. It seems so genuine. Like you said,
Hmm.
she was legitimately choked up. So this it she feels real when she's being the sort of the nice, happy girl. And I think people are super happy for her. There are a lot of AEW fans who remember her showing up every week on Dark, either for matches or sitting in the audience during the COVID era tapings when they just had other wrestlers around. And the sort of long journey, it felt like it took a long time for her to actually get signed, like to officially get the graphic, and then just there were a lot of fans of the company who are very invested in her because they feel like they've sort of seen every stage of her growth and how incredibly far she's come. Yeah, I thought that she was solid gold here.
Yeah. I do wonder if like Tony Storm wasn't out of the picture, would she be would Willow get the spot?
It's hard to say because I find that Tony, like, she was on a whole other level within that division. And so not just like in terms of yeah, in terms of the character, in terms of the reactions that she was getting, I would like to think that they would have found other things for Tony to do because sometimes keeping your biggest stars away from your world titles can be as effective as putting the titles on them. Like,
Yeah. Certainly, like if you're looking to use the Wembley stage to make somebody new, like this, she feels like the best candidate. And this crowd only completely confirmed that. You know, I was somebody
mhm,
who thought maybe you throw Tekla into this feud because, like, you know, I just
yeah,
think like the personality would be ramped up that much more. You saw from
mhm,
tonight's interaction with Willow and Monet that
yeah.
they were certainly fine on their own. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I really hope that they have something big for Tekla because she absolutely deserves it. Like in the absence of Tony Storm, Tekla has emerged as like someone who could carry that division
yeah.
with her personality. She deserves a good match at All In.
Uh-huh.
I we'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm fine with just the pairing, like the pairing being Willow versus Mercedes.
So out comes Mercedes, and she immediately gets a ton of boos for crashing this party. This crowd loves Willow
Hmm.
so much that like they are
Hmm.
booing Mercedes, like some of the loudest like heel reactions that I think
Yeah.
we've heard against her. So
Hmm.
she comes out with the all-in contract, and Willow signs it on Monet's chest. Monet shoves her, a little bit of physicality there. Willow, and then they start talking here. Willow says, "Monet, are you angry because you didn't get attention for 5 seconds, or is it because you remember that I beat you for that TBS championship?" Or is it that she has one title, the one title that Monet cannot have? Monet takes the mic and says the thing that she hates the most about Willow is not her smile, not the fact that people love her. It's that her name is always somehow attached to her story. She got injured against Willow when she, in that New Japan match, of course, that halted her career. She had to fight Willow when she came into AEW. She lost her great TBS title reign also to Willow, and there are shut the fuck up chants at Monet. She says Willow would be nothing without her. These people only chant your name because you're sitting across the ring from me. And she wants Willow to acknowledge that Monet made her and gave her the greatest moments of her career. She then pie faces Willow. They argue a little bit more. And this is when Divine Dominion come out to intimidate Willow, leading to a 3-on-1 attack. Willow is laid out with the bow down, leading to the Brawling Birds to come out to make the save. And this match was also announced for Collision. Or is it next week? Or was it next week? Let me just double check.
It's next week. Next week.
Oh, yeah, next week. Willow and Brawling Birds versus Monet and Divine Dominion. So, yeah. I thought Monet sounded great. I mean, listen, to the against this backdrop of like, you know, like this incredible audience that was there to certainly like support Willow and boo Monet, like you can say it was a little bit easy, but I thought Monet just like really sounded great too, and she gave us some great explanation about why this feels personal to her, between her and Willow. It's not just about the championship.
Well, and this is ultimately why you couldn't just have the match be Mercedes versus Tekla at all. And you needed this. It is it is remarkable that she's right. Their careers are now inextricably linked. Willow's the person who benefited immediately from Mercedes' injury. She is the person who lost that belt to her when Mercedes entered the company. She's the person who took the title back from her. Like these two women are like, this is a feud that could go on for years. And you can keep sort of coming back to it because it's only going to get more sort of layered and complex. I thought that they were, as I said, Willow, incredibly likable. Mercedes is just, she is to me always better as a heel. I think that she can be a babyface, but she does this sort of that arrogant, contemptuous heel role so well. And this was one of the best iterations of it. I thought just killer segment. And if there were any lingering doubts about whether this was the right move, the sequence, this segment just eliminated them.
This feels like, coming off of this segment, it feels incredibly hot, and certainly feels like one of the you could say co-main events, you know, of the evening. Provided these sort of reactions keep up with them throughout the build up to Wembley, and I certainly hope it does, because this was Willow at her best. I would argue it was Mercedes at her best too in this talking segment. So heavily recommended here. The Continental title match is up next between Jon Moxley and Commander. A match. I mean, again. How he earned the title shot, who cares? It's Jon Moxley versus Commander here. The crowd loves Jon Moxley to start. Commander delivers like a really cool spinning springboard into an arm drag, and Moxley's whole game in this is just like saying like fuck off with that flippy shit, and he just like kind of gets to his feet, no sells it, and instead just kind of hits him with some straightforward offense.
He's still salty about losing to the Bucks.
Yeah, right. Mox runs away from like Commander's rope run dive. Commander chases him with the tope anyway, taking us to commercial break. Mox continues to retreat on the floor before goading Commander and poking him in the eyes. The crowd starts booing Moxley now, and in fact, they start chanting, "Fuck Ohio." Commander comes back, does a bunch of flippy things to avoid Moxley, and Mox just stalks him, delivers two middle fingers, and just hits him with a cutter. Commander goads Moxley to come back into the ring, where he delivers a springboard 450 to Mox, then the Spaceman. Cielito Lindo misses. Moxley then stomps him and delivers the Death Rider, Death Rider, not the Paradigm Shift, before the rear naked choke to force the tap from Commander.
Other really good match, unexpected pairing. Commander's just very, very likable in ring, and I was a little nervous coming at the beginning when I saw how hot the crowd was for Moxley, but they understood the assignment. They got with it, and I would still argue that Moxley is not truly a heel, but he's more heelish than he has been in a few months, and like the eye poke was a great example of that. Like, he's always been a bit dirty, but now he's being dirty to like nice people, and we We can't abide that.
You can always maybe tell the direction that maybe Tony wants us to see John Moxley, and according to who he's paired up against, and you know, like a poor little defenseless luchador like Commander here. I mean, certainly turn the crowd on Mox. So I'm wondering if like maybe there's some connection to what his plans are for Arena Mexico. You know, the fact that he beat up a luchador here, but I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah, I was a little surprised they went with that this week rather than next week. Commander's been working a fair bit in CMLL, so like, if thought I thought briefly like, is this going to go to like a timeout or something so they can redo it? But then I was like, well, no. Anyway, they did not do that. But
so in the back, did you have any thoughts? Can you tell me the live arena perspective for that Mick Foley Divine Dominion segment?
It didn't really get much reaction at all. It was a little difficult to hear, and like
You should
like
be
it
thankful.
is just, yeah. I've heard it since. Whatever. Like it just it didn't get much of a reaction either way.
So Mick Foley, his role on this particular show is to interview the Bang Bang Gang. I thought he'd be paired with the Dogs, but the Dogs were not here. He's instead talking to the Bang Bang Gang, and
Well,
there's
if anyone should talk to the Bang Bang Gang, surely it's Mick Foley.
That is correct. He has reason to talk to both of them. He knows how to bow out and he knows how to bang bang. So there's a subdued atmosphere here in the room, he says, and they let us know that Jay White also isn't here after the chain match. Maybe reading some of the online reactions and seeing the cage match rating to the chain match. Juice challenges the Dogs and the Death Riders to any combination of them to a match tomorrow night on Collision. And
Dog Riders.
Dog Riders Unite. Yeah. So what is this, like a 4-on-4? I guess they weren't.
I have no
really
idea.
specific.
I will be quite honest. I heard Jay White isn't here tonight, and just no. Please tell me he's not hurt again. Please tell me it's like they didn't say hurt. They didn't say anything. I have not anything, but I just heard that, and I guess we just got him back, and he has just been so plagued with injuries. Yeah. I thought like if he. And immediately I'm sort of like trying to replay the match in my head. I'm like, did it look like he was hurt? Did it look like he was hurt? I don't think it looked like he was hurt.
That Dominator from Finley, I mean, you certainly might get concerned after seeing that, but he ended up finishing the match afterwards. So
yeah,
hopefully it's just precautionary.
Or if he just wasn't there, like he just he wasn't. Yeah. It's also possible. Like he took a couple days off. Like he did just come back after more than a year's absence. But I was like on top of everything. Like if he just got injured again, I lose my mind.
Up next for the Trios Championship, we have the Conglomeration defending against the Demand here. There is a lot of action on the outside before the bell, and then they just kind of get into this like car crash pace here. The bell rings. It's Cassidy in there with Toa, and Toa lifts Cassidy by the arms while they are in his pockets. Roddy comes in, uses Cassidy as a battering ram. The Gates take control, beating on Roddy. Hot tag to Kyle, who takes on the entire Demand by himself. Ankle lock on Khan, getting to the ropes. Khan superplexes Strong. Strong dodges a Toa diving headbutt, and they just stack dives on top of each other. Orange Cassidy tries to orange punch Toa, but of course he is Samoan, so it does not work on him. And it takes a 3-on-1 and an orange punch to the jaw to finally take Toa down. In come the lethal twist as Blake Christian smashes Orange Cassidy with the championship belt. Spirit Gun is delivered to Cassidy, and we have new Trios champions.
I've wanted the Demand to have the Trios belts for a while, so this pleased me greatly. This is a lot of fun. I'm glad that they continue to present Toa as potentially the breakout star here, where they gave him some memorable spots, like especially the one of him like lifting Cassidy with the hands in the pockets. I feel like the Demand were sort of they were super hot for a while. They had faded off. I'm happy to get them back regularly on TV. The addition of Lethal Twist is an interesting one. Again, another group that I'm happy to see get TV time. So the more the better. The Conglomeration, like I welcome them having things to do. They don't really need the belts. I tend to prefer the trios belts when they're moved around fairly frequently, and this is the cheating and stuff, the sort of blind ref moments. I don't love. I don't mind them as much though when it's the trios belts, because those ones to me are ones that should be more sort of lighthearted, I guess.
It's to me the trios belts are really just an excuse for like these matches, and I don't know if like it necessarily elevates. But when you're talking about a group that, I mean, until recently was just a trio, I think having at least that confirmation of them being the best by the tag team titles attached to them certainly adds something. And I certainly look forward to more matches involving them, because I think the Gates of Agony have become so much fun to watch. I mean, they were always fun to watch, but now that there's a bit of personality attached to them, and you're seeing it come out of both Khan and Toa, I think they're that much better. So good chemistry with everybody here. Afterwards, this big brawl ensues with the lethal twist and the conglomeration. So Brody King comes out to help, and he is followed by Hangman Page with a barbed wire chair. Lethal tries to grab the chair but hurts his hand.
I loved Lethal in this moment. It's the reaction like, oh, ow, ow. He touches the barbed wire.
Page then, of course, hits the buckshot lariat to Jay Lethal, signifying some form of physicality. I mean, this certainly takes a good deal of athleticism to pull off that flip into the lariat. So, what is Page's direction for All In here? And was this meant to signify anything, or just a cool moment?
I wasn't sure if it was giving Page a direction in terms of a program, or kind of signifying like, is he now going to become part of the conglomeration? Like, is it him joining a faction, or he is a former trios champion? Like, could be that. It still seems preliminary to me.
That just seems like a major step down for Page.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about the guy who was a star of the previous year's iteration of this show. Even like involved,
but it's going to be a step down because he can't be in the world title picture anymore. Like, whatever he's doing, it's a step down.
Well, MJF is there, right? That is sort of like maybe maybe the leading contender for what match he may have. But now we're wondering if MJF is good to go for Wembley. Yeah. So anyway, Page is back, and at least on this night, seemingly involved both with Ospreay and also whatever this sort of conglomeration demand thing is. So next week on Collision, we've got from Arena, Mexico, Speedball versus Kyle Fletcher for the TNT Championship. Willow and the Brawling Birds taking on Mercedes Moné and Divine Dominion, and then Will Ospreay versus. Sorry, did I get this wrong? Will Ospreay and Davis, is that next week or tomorrow?
That's next week.
Next week, okay. Ospreay and Davis with no outside interference. So no mention of like any CMLL talent just yet, but I mean, I imagine you'll find out in the afternoon on Wednesday.
Yeah. Or I mean, they can also announce things on Collision too, which is
true.
But
he won't. Okay,
he won't. No, we're gonna find out Wednesday afternoon, and you'll be happy about it.
5:50 p.m. All right. Collision tomorrow has the Brawling Birds and Hazuki taking on Athena, Billy Starks, and Diamante. So that is. Did they announce anything else for Collision as yet?
That was only the Dog Riders and
Thank you.
the Bang Bang.
Yeah, speaking of the Dog Riders, we have a response here from them, and they accept the Bang Bang Gangs challenge. And Garcia tells Ospreay specifically that you left the United Empire when things got tough, but that's not how it works with the Death Riders. And he says, "See you soon." And in fact, this was also announced for tomorrow. Will Ospreay versus Daniel Garcia. They actually announced. So this part confused me. This is John Moxley now talking.
Yeah.
He talks about the Continental Cup. He keeps talking about this Continental Cup. And
what is the Continental Cup?
I know about the Continental Classic, but usually that's not until the end of the year. He's talking about the Continental Cup, and he says like something about how like, if he happens to lose the title there, then so be it. So what is this Continental Cup? Could he be referring to the C2? But how would that fit in?
He was bold of him to assume he's going to continue to hold the title until then, and woe to
why would he talk about that now? I I think
The
this is something
only
else.
I'm not sure, because the only thing that I'm thinking is that Tony might want to start building anticipation for that. And the only reason why I mention it is because Gabe Kidd, the other night after his New Japan match, which he won, did his sort of typical like fuck New Japan, fuck the G1, whatever. He did say like, I want to go back to AEW and be in the real best competition, the Continental Classic. He did get the name right. Put me in, coach. So the fact that Kidd said that and then Moxley just like a couple of days later made me wonder, like, are they moving the competition up possibly, or are they just sort of trying to kind of remind people that it is coming up at, like, in the not too distant future, but it doesn't usually happen until like November.
Yeah, so interesting, and thanks for bringing up the Gabe Kid mention. But yeah, interesting if the idea would be them moving it up in the calendar year to maybe peak for like, I don't know, like another, like what, Full Gear or something like that, maybe like another tentpole show. So we'll see. But I also thought it really odd, number one, that he would maybe mess up the name if he intended to say the Continental Classic, or two, the fact that like there was no prior mention to any of this prior on the show, like in the form
Yeah.
of like commentary, no follow
Yeah.
up to this from the like announcers either, like explaining what exactly Moxley was talking about. So I wasn't the
Yeah,
only one confused.
sometimes no, Mox sometimes is a little bit inscrutable, and this is one of those times. But yeah, just like, I'm not really sure if there was something that was supposed to be announced that wasn't, or yeah.
Okay. So then we got our big main event segment here. This was billed as Kenny Omega speaks, but of course he is quickly interrupted by Will Ospreay, who comes out, and Omega says this is perfect because he has a lot to say to Will Ospreay. Omega says, I showed you at Redemption how I felt, and it didn't matter if the fans misunderstood because I thought you would understand, but now I'm not so sure. He says, Will, I care about you and I want the world for you. And he says, remember when we made that promise to each other to try our best to become champions? 100% of the time, he says, I will put my friendship with you above this title. And he talks about how, he let Ospreay, like, or encourage Ospreay to enter the Owen. And he says, how did you repay me for that? He talks about a comment Will made to him about how he says it really sucks you gave up on yourself. And I guess I'm trying to jog my memory. It was during an interaction where where Ospreay, where Omega was trying to warn Ospreay
To
about
warn
the
him
Death
about Moxley,
Records.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And Will responded, well, maybe maybe I didn't give up on myself yet, just like you did. And Omega says that cut me really deep. And he holds the championship up. I mean, he says, does it look like I gave up? Does this title look like I gave up? He says, even though I gave you plenty of warnings about Moxley, you always acted like you knew better. So what is your excuse now? Ospreay says, my excuse? I came back too early from neck surgery because I wanted revenge. And when I was when I was about to have it, it slipped from my fingers. And Kate, this is when my stream ended on my AEW, and unfortunately on my AEW, once the stream ends, like there's no way to go back because they have to process the video in
dear
order for me to get my
God.
spot. I did
Oh, no.
catch some of this, but in the immediate aftermath of this line, what did Will Ospreay say here? Do you recall?
Oh, okay. I'm not quite. At what point did you get the feedback? I can try and
So
fill in the
Omega
gap.
like brings up the plastic bag thing.
Yes.
And I imagine nothing that important in between those points.
No,
Right?
it was more just dog that, like, yeah, Osprey
Got it.
kind of repeating himself a bit, but yes.
So Omega brings up I had to go to Twitter to watch the rest of this. So Omega brings up the plastic bag thing. He said he knew Ospreay was considering doing it. And he says the worst part about it all is that Ospreay looked at him like Kenny should be thanking him for not using it. Ospreay says he had no idea that the Death Riders would do the whole that whole thing, and he says before Ospreay could finish, Omega slaps him, calls him a liar, says, "I thought you were my friend." Ospreay says, "I was your friend." Omega says, is this all our friendship is? A title now. He slaps Ospreay again. He says, you want to talk tough now that you're in front of a live TV camera? Slaps him again. He says, each time you are under pressure, you crumble. And that's why I will always be better than you. He slaps him one more time. And this is when Ospreay retaliates, dropping Omega. He sets up for the hidden blade, but stops just short before hitting it and says, no matter how much I love or respect you, when you put your hands on me, I will kick the shit out of you, bruv. And that was there anything more? Did I, because I watched this in Clipboard. Was there anything else to close the segment?
Basically, yeah, like it came back to, this is where I was saying, like the thing about him being ready to pull the trigger came out, and he was talking about like he had gotten to this point. He did like a comparison, which is funny. He's like, our 90 minutes are up, extra time is up, like good, of course, British guy doing the soccer reference. And the funny thing was, he sort of said, like, we're going on to penalties. And the first thing that occurred to me was like, oh, that's an odd thing for a British fan to say, which he then immediately followed up by saying, like, and if you know anything about the English team, we're shit at penalties, which they are. But he's like, but you know what? This is my moment. This is when I am going to step up. I am ready to take this on. Be like, sort of almost giving himself his own pep talk, like that he was going to be able to, like, without denying anything that Kenny had said, so to say, like, no, I'm different now. This is the moment. This is what I've been building towards. This is the match that basically I have to win. And that is where we end with Kenny sort of not retreating up the ramp, but sort of gradually walking away, so that Will is the one left in the ring at the end of the segment.
So it looks like there was actually quite a bit, like at least like 3 minutes here by the end here. But at least for most of what I was able to see, I thought this was a home run segment. And as far as like a promo goes, I think, like, to me, like, this might have been the best and most serious Kenny has ever sounded on the mic.
Yeah, this is, I thought, the two segments tonight were both of the sort of setups for All In. You had in Mercedes and Kenny two people who are not necessarily known as being good talkers. They are people who prove themselves through their wrestling, and in both cases, I thought they absolutely killed it. And this was... It was a really fascinating dynamic to me, because they were not trying to push either of these guys as a babyface or as a heel. They were mixed, and that's very clearly how you're supposed to see them. You're not supposed to like have this like, I must cheer this one person and like boo this person. It's like, no, it's more it's more complicated than that. But I thought that they both did they both did a great job here. And yeah, in particular Kenny, I was incredible.
Yeah. I think like I already recognize Ospreay, like, being excellent on the mic. Kenny, yes. I've like, he can be, but I don't think he's shown like this level of consistency by performing at this level. So this, like, his ability to essentially lead the segment like this, doing this, like, I would say very much like intense paranoid character.
Yeah.
I mean, almost like certainly surprised me and shows me that he is incredibly capable of this sort of high level character work if he wanted to do it. So like, yes, a double babyface thing, and you understand completely the motivations of both men. Yeah. But of course, Kenny is, to me, leaning more heelish, right? He is the person that we kind of see and understand Ospreay's motivation in it all. But Kenny is not reacting well to it, and he has reason not to react well. But he's showing it in a way that is a lot more unlikable, in that
one of the things that I liked, though, about what he did was, or at least it's a common frustration that I have with some segments where someone's been like knocked out or whatever, and someone comes to the rescue, and they'll do a segment afterwards, and it's like the person didn't watch back what actually happened. In this case, what he was describing was what you saw. It Will was thinking, he can say whatever he wants. He was thinking about putting the plastic bag over Kenny's head. He did take a long time to actually like come to his rescue. Kenny did get out from the chair by himself, not with Will's help. So it was like, yeah, and Will did look at him at the end as if Kenny owed him a thank you. So there's there's that, like, and of course you get the one-winged angel at the end as a way of saying like, hey, screw you, I know that I can't really trust you, so it's like I'm getting the jump on you.
Yeah, I've been so impressed by, first of all the stuff with Ospreay and Mox, but I never really considered like how they were going to get us from Mox and Ospreay to this, and they did it. They've done it in a really strong way to, like, I guess, like, like, take Ospreay far enough to the dark side that it would offend Kenny, that Ospreay would even consider like killing him or suffocating him, essentially. And all of that in an effort to like make these two hate each other. They've got to that point, and I really buy it now, especially from this performance from Kenny, which was some of the most intense I've ever heard him on the mic.
Yeah, I think this is a show with a lot of very good wrestling, but like the two highlights were the promo segments, Willow Mercedes and Ospreay and Kenny.
Agreed. I really enjoyed tonight's edition of Dynamite, both as a follow-up to Redemption. Like, somehow this felt, I would argue, just as relevant as Redemption did, for in fact, maybe even more in some ways. But the wrestling was really strong, very entertaining. The only negative about it is having to take play-by-play notes for it, because John Pollock isn't here, because boy, are these shows exhausting to write about and talk about. And we had a lot of it. This was like 2 hours, 35 minutes total runtime for this one.
Yeah, this is like the main event. Well, the main event segment did not start until like 10 after 10. The last match was finished after 10 o'clock. So,
but a very enjoyable show, and it does not end there. Stay at Detroit, because Kate from Montreal and Bruce Lord will be talking about AEW Collision tomorrow night on a special Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then you guys will go on at about 10:15 in the Post Wrestling Cafe. So,
well, assuming the show ends at 10 o'clock, yes.
Assuming you don't get another 2.5-hour show. So that will be live, and we will continue this particular show talking about your feedback to Dynamite as we go over to the XL edition in the Post Wrestling Cafe. But before that, like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Leave a good comment on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave a thoughtful, critical comment if you must. Okay, but that always helps all of us. So goodbye to all of our free feed listeners, and let's go over to the Post Wrestling Cafe.